to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In front of you, you have the minutes from March 24th. If you want to take a moment to look at them, see if you have any additions and/or deletions. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are passed unanimously. At this time, we will go into the Historic Zoning Commission and Common Design Review Board cases. We'll call on Brett.
All right, it's only one case today, and it is a case that was heard in February and March. Case number DDR1 2025, the application of Gracie General Partnership with the agent of Bart Klein. Reason for the request is the Joseph is a mixed-use development that includes workforce residential units, retail space, and modern amenities. The design thoughtfully integrates the Dunlop Mansion using complementary brick veneer and limestone banding while incorporating contemporary architectural elements to create a cohesive connection between the new and existing facility. The owner will proceed with an application for the National Historic Registry for the original structure. The property is located at 517 Madison Street and is on your screen before you. As always, Mr. David Smith, who is cruising around the world right now. Big thanks to him for all his time and talents with the photographs that you will see today. So this is the Dunlop Mansion with the carriage house to the rear of it there. Second shot just looks straight down onto the site. So this submittal before you today is very similar to what was before you in February and March with a minor change. Site and landscape plan shown on the screen here. Again, same site and landscape plan from the prior 2 months. This is the new renderings that were submitted. Again, still 5 stories along Madison Street and 4 along the sides. Primary material is brick veneer, does have some limestone banding and some fiber cement siding along the top. And the big change, a little hard to see, but you should have an 11x17 in your packets. What was a masonry parapet wall right above the first floor retail has been changed to glass with the intention to increase the view shed of the Dunlop Mansion from Madison Street. And here is one more slide from the architect, Mr. Klein's presentation, who is out of town with business today. Again, showing that what used to be a masonry parapet wall, now glass, to, as I mentioned, increase the view shed to the Dunlop Mansion. And this slide also shows the stabilization measures and the potential adaptive reuse for the Dunlop Mansion. Everything is still the same, still looking to stabilize the mansion and reuse it as well. One more shot, just looking straight down at the proposed development. Again, you can see that new glass wall there. Staff comments remain unchanged from the previous 2 months. In order for infill buildings to blend into the existing streetscape, their design should complement that of historic buildings and reflect the period of its construction and shall not attempt a reproduction of a historic style. The advisory building height is 3 stories. Taller buildings may be appropriate at key intersections and for reasons of financial viability and to encourage greater property values per acre downtown. Building heights higher than the advisory height may be necessary outside of the local and national historic districts. The front yard setback should be based on the predominant setback of existing structures on the block face or across the street. Site and landscape plan approval is still needed. And then finally, the staff does feel this project meets the intent of the downtown guidelines and the comprehensive plan. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Does anybody have any questions for Brett?
Yes,
Doug?
Brett, the site plan and landscape
plan approval. Is that something that does not happen until review from this board? Because it's been the same way for the 3 times too. I just didn't know if, are
That's
they having the same issues with?
Yeah, no, that's correct. It will go to the planning commission tomorrow, assuming it receives a favorable recommendation today.
So it hasn't been presented?
It
or something?
hasn't, just in case it could change. You know, this body could change the design or something that could alter that plan, so.
Any other questions for Brett? Thank you, Brett.
And just real quick to further answer your question, it's been deferred the previous 2 months, just waiting for a recommendation here, so.
Okay, at this time, we will open the public hearing for case number DDR-1-2025. We will take 3 people in favor, 3 people opposed, and then and each person will have 3 minutes. I do have a timer here. When you hear the timer, that means your 3 minutes are up. Please try to conclude very shortly. And then we will have 1 rebuttal for the applicant, for the 4 crowd after all that. So is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of DDR-1-2025? Please come forward, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes.
My name is Larry McMillan. I live on Maplemere Drive. I'm a local lawyer. I represent Gracie General Partnership. Mr. Bart Klein, the project architect, could not be here today. I volunteered to make this presentation, and it is my honor and privilege to be here before you. The design modification, as was told, was in response to some of the comments we had received from this board. That is to increase the focus of the development onto the residents. This parapet wall, which was solid, was 42 inches high, and now is transparent, which again increases the visibility of the mansion. So now the mansion has a picture frame around it, a grand staircase leading up to it, and increased visibility. Ladies and gentlemen, this project is a significant compromise. As you all know, the owners initially sought demolition. They now are prepared for preservation. The house will be preserved and its focus is increased. Respectfully, it is patently unfair to suggest that this development does not fit within its neighborhood when it will be next door to the massive and ultra-modern Workforce Essentials. Behind it lies an ocean of asphalt. It certainly has more character than the South Central Bell Building, its 100-foot microwave tower that dwarfs the Madison Street United Methodist Church, as well as the Madison Street Business Circle and the Habitat for Humanity restore. This project represents a significant private investment in our downtown, which, as you all know, has been limited for a long time. It represents preservation of this house, as so many wish, and it represents a significant compromise. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. McMillan? Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes, and when you hear the buzzer, that's it.
Buck Dellinger, President of Economic Development Council, 25 Jefferson Street. For the 3rd time, I want to speak in favor of this project. Again, it is our collective goal to increase the rooftops in the downtown core. Current and future retail, to include restaurants and shops, are dependent on a sustained customer base, which is best provided by residents that live downtown. And walkable residential options are the best. Again, I acknowledge that this design review board has a tough job, and I want to impress on you that you are making a decision that affects the whole community. Our city and county, the average age in our city and county is 32. The average age for the state is 39. We are 7 years younger than the rest of the state in our county. Our market is a young, progressive market. The more successful we are at recruiting well-paying jobs and occupations, which we are in our county, the more solidified this young population will remain in Clarksville, maybe even get younger. Our housing product needs to appeal to this market. All over the U.S. and Middle Tennessee, architects are designing and incorporating adaptive reuse of historic buildings. Examples are the Newhoff Building on Adams Street in Nashville, which used to be a slaughterhouse and is now surrounded on 3 sides by modern residential buildings. Another example is the Worthen Package Facility on Rosa Parks Boulevard, again in Nashville, surrounded on all sides by modern buildings and is being used as a condominium at this time. A third is the factory in Franklin. That is a multitude of shops under historic roof. And actually there are countless other examples. It is common practice to preserve historical buildings by incorporating them with a modern use, either inside the historic structure or around it. This is the best way to preserve and activate these usually abandoned sites. I've spoken with several architects whether the modern addition should exactly match the Dunlop Mansion building or be allowed to stand in contrast. You get many opinions, but the predominant opinion is that something historical should be surrounded by something modern to offset that historical building. I believe that is what the architect and developer are attempting to do. They're preserving the original home, but trying to activate the property with retail and residential uses. From a development perspective, keeping the home as is on this property, in my opinion, and many of our opinions, will not work. Specifically, this home will not be occupied for a standalone retail or commercial use. An architect firm or realtor office or attorney or some other use will not buy this property and improve it as it is. This just won't happen. Secondly, the city will not buy this property, I don't believe, will not buy this property and maintain it like the Smith Train Hearn Mansion, which has been closed since 2022, waiting on renovations. The idea that someone will come along is an extreme long shot. The option that the developer has presented is a strong option, with the developer taking all the risk. If the Dunlop Mansion with an activated courtyard were to become a restaurant pub with a dedicated clientele from the residents that are surrounded it, it might actually have a chance to be preserved, and it might appeal to our city's demographics. In its current form, it doesn't have a chance for preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dillinger? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Please come forward, state your name and address. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we will ask anybody in opposition, if you would like to come forward, please come forward, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes, and when you hear the buzzer, please start to wind up.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Rudolph, 313 Hampshire Court. I appreciate the opportunity for public comment. And again, for the 3rd time, I would like to speak in opposition of this project. Part of the duty of this board is very difficult, but this board is being asked to follow the guidelines that we have in place for new construction, for additions. While I appreciate the examples that Mr. Dillinger gave, those are not in Clarksville, Montgomery County. He mentioned they're in Franklin and in Nashville. What we have right now is guidelines that are to be considered for new construction in our downtown urban design overlay, which Mr. Tyndall in our February meeting reminded the board that your duties are to follow the guidelines. It doesn't matter what you personally think about the design, that it's a concession because the house is being saved. Though that language is not in there. The language is you are to follow the guidelines. And the guidelines for the downtown urban design overlay are very clear in chapter 9.5. 9.5 says that the word shall indicates it should be and mandated. And the design standards, I'm sorry, I've lost my place and my vision's not well. The Common Design Review Guidelines, the word shall indicates that the design standards should be followed and that they are mandated. Whereas terms such as should and considered and discouraged indicate design principles which are more flexible. When we talk about height for this area, the recommended height for this area is 3 stories. When you look at 9.5, it also says that there are occasions that going above the 3 advisory stories are necessary at major intersections. This property is not at a major intersection, and it will be in fact 5 stories, which does not blend into its surrounding buildings that are historic, which you should look to that. Also, new additions shall be, the word shall, which is mandated, they shall be compatible in massing, in size, in scale, and in architectural features. To protect the historic integrity of this property and its environment. And one quick note, I have heard from Reverend Jeff Norfleet, who is the pastor at St. Peter's AME, a 155-year-old church. He and his congregation do not feel it fits in this area, which is in proximity to his 155-year-old church. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Ms. Rudolph? Any questions? Seeing none, would anybody else like to come forward and speak in opposition? Please state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Harper. I live at 503 Lisa Court in Clarksville. I'd like to address the comments that Mr. Dillinger made about the economic impact, even though that really isn't in the regulations as I read them as an issue for consideration. But I'd like to point out that based on testimony we've heard at the earlier versions of this hearing from one of the local downtown merchants, that their businesses have been on the downswing for years now. And you can look to the other construction that has been built in the area, and you can see that that has not remedied the problems of attracting customers to those local downtown businesses. There's no reason to think that this particular structure and the people who would come to live there would be shopping at those businesses any more than the others who live in the surrounding area. In the last 7 years, we've had 4 other substantial apartment complexes built in that same area, and they haven't been the shot in the arm to those businesses that we're being encouraged to believe that this one would be. Theoretically, it makes sense, but we have no reason to believe that to be an actual fact and to know that that would happen. And history, in fact, implies, again, can't be proved, but implies that the opposite would be the case, that it would not help those businesses. One of the things I'd also like to mention is that the guidelines do specifically say that when you're looking at making the new construction compatible with the existing historical structures, you are to not include, not reference, non-complying other structures, such as the Workforce Essentials building or the other building that he mentioned. Those are supposed to be not included in your comparison, but instead the Bowling Hughes building, which is right next door to this, which will be dwarfed by this construction if it takes place, will not be visible as you approach it heading west on Madison Street. Neither will the Dunlop Miller House be visible from coming from either direction on Madison Street. You'll only be able to see it if you're standing in the middle of the street looking straight through up the staircase. And the last element I'd like to mention is the recommendation from some other architects that it's good to have the modern contrasting with the historic. The regulations for this district here in Clarksville, Montgomery County is that the style of the existing historic structure should be reflected and echoed in the new construction. Not that it mimics it, not that it pretends or tries to look like a historic building, but the elements of style and design in that building should be repeated in the new construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Harper? Thank you, Ms. Harper.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak? Please come forward, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes.
Okay, here we are again. Louisa Cook, 5 Fair Lane, Clarksville. I looked up Common Design Review Board. What does that mean? Because I didn't know. I'm sure you all already know. You've been on it a long time. But so I looked up common. Common means it occurs often. It is prevalent. It is done by many. And so the Common Design Review Board ought to be looking at things that are common to our history. You are part of the historical board. You are looking at what was common in historical times, what was prevalent, what was important to Clarksville heritage. Last time, Chairman Gannon said to the board, it is your job, your mission to save Clarksville's history. And I believe that that is what's very important. So today, I want to talk about the house, because it seems to me the house is getting short shrift here. We're talking about the apartments, we're talking about all of that stuff, but the reason you're here in this board, in this room, is because it is an historical property. That apartment complex on another piece of property would be fine. It would be perfect. I'm all for modern stuff. But the house is still hidden. It's still behind all of that. And if you'll remember, the developer first wanted to tear it down. And you all said, no, you can't tear it down. The second time, they came back with this design, and the house was just whited out in the background as if insignificant, doesn't make any difference, just like the one next to it on either side. Whited out. So again, Mr. Gannon asked them to do something better for the house. They came back, they colored it in. What are they going to do with it? What's going to happen to the house? It is not front and center in this apartment complex. It is not designated to be anything in particular. If you've got a place that big with 16 parking spots or 38 parking spots or whatever, nobody's going to go to that house to drink at the pub or to go to a wedding or to do anything because they can't park anywhere near it. And that will be a huge detriment, I think, to the use of the property. So the house is the issue here. Your guidelines come from, I've read this too, the guidelines put out by the Secretary of the Interior for Historic Properties dated 1977 and revised in 1990. And just like Jennifer Rudolph said, it says when it uses the word shall, it means it's got to happen. It's mandated. It's not a choice. It's not, it would be real nice if it were that way. So let me just tell you a couple of the things that it says you shall happen. An historic property shall be used for its historic purpose. If a new use is called for, it shall be required minimal changes. New additions shall be undertaken in a manner that, if removed, the essential form and integrity of the historic property would be unimpaired. And last, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. Shall. Please, vote this for another piece of property, not this one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Ms. Cook, thank you for your presentation about the house. What would you like to see the house be rebuilt to do or restored?
Great. It would be a wonderful museum. It would be a
Can you
wonderful
please come to the
center.
microphone? Please talk
I'm
into the
sorry.
microphone.
I'm sorry. Museum, event center, offices on top, places down below that could be used for a restaurant, an event center, a wedding, if they kept the gardens that are still there, the English gardens, it could be gorgeous for all kinds of potential things. Cultural events in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Good idea, because that's what I was thinking. Suppose they make that a museum and still build that building. Would you have a problem with that?
Yes.
Why? Because if they make it a museum and they still gonna have apartments there, why would you have a problem?
I wouldn't really have a problem with having another building on that piece of land, but as we all know, that's a massive building on that piece of land. And it takes over everything. It dwarfs the intent of the historic property. And so I do also think that parking for any event held in the building would be a serious drawback.
But, that can be worked out. Parking is always a problem here in Clarksville. That's nothing new. We have that problem everywhere. So what I'm saying to you, if they did not demolish the building.
Correct.
And if they make it a museum or event center, like you said, and I was thinking the same thing, good thought. And they build that building, we're trying to bring in apartments so that we can get more business downtown. I just think the building is nice. I mean, they even open up where they're gonna have a glass where you can see the building. If they restore it to be a museum, I think that would be great too.
But you know, you all have asked them many times to make repeated the same changes you've asked for every time, and the best they could come back with was a piece of glass that makes the building a little more visible. To me, that's not doing what you all have asked
Well, I
them to
haven't
do.
asked them to do that. I haven't asked them to make any changes,
Well,
because I
just-
voted in favor of it because I think it's a beautiful building, and I think if they do something, they restore the house, I think it would be great for downtown.
What's wrong with the beautiful building on another lot? There are lots of lots for sale.
But they
downtown.
bought that lot, and they need to make their money back. You know, these people have to make money. And I think it's nice to bring people in downtown. I don't see a problem with building apartments in downtown.
I don't either.
Okay, well, at least we're on the same sheet of music there. And the museum, it would be great, maybe they can do that to
It
restore
could
that
be
pro-
something beautiful that would really catch everybody's eye when they
Right.
come into Clarksville. Not just a massive undertaking that really creates shadow up and
Right.
down Madison Street. It needs to be wide open. It needs to be the beautiful house that it was.
Right, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Cook? Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we'll allow the in favor side for rebuttal, if you wish. Please come forward. State your name and address again, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Larry McMillan, live on Maplemere Drive. I want to thank each of you for volunteering to be on this board. I know how difficult that can be to sit in judgment of others. For those of you who have been in support of this project, I thank you and encourage you to continue your support. For those of you who have been in opposition to this project, and for some of you who may be on the fence and not know exactly which way you're going to vote, I want to offer 3 things. Number 1, while I appreciate and understand passion and conviction, I do not understand the inability or refusal to acknowledge success. The needle has been moved from demolition to preservation. Secondly, Tip Top Mansion, right over here. Its front yard was sold off for residential development. Its sister property to the near east, I think it's the Kimbrough home, front yard sold off for residential development, some of which is vinyl siding. The Glenwood Mansion coming this way, other than Glenwood Park, front yard sold off, residential development. The Rudolph Mansion on Maplemere, 3 homes built in its front yard, one of which is mine. 3, the Royal Oak Hotel, 7 stories, 33 units, 4,000 square feet of retail, 6 parking places, 100% occupancy. And not the retail, but 100% occupancy in the residences. Mr. Johnson, a friend of mine, was here last month, and he said, essentially, don't worry, someone will come along. That someone is here. And there can be no guarantees for the future of this house without this project. Respectfully, the future of this home lies with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. McMillan?
I do.
Okay.
How long ago was Tip Top Mansion sold off and residential houses built in front of it?
I don't know.
70s, is that right? 62.
Friend of mine lives in one of those.
You're looking at it.
I know.
That's all.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your presentation. You made some good points, and I hear you. Do you think that the person who's, I guess the agent who's going to buy, who already bought the land, would be willing to make that a museum or do something with the historical building. I know they didn't tear it down if they, build the apartments, that building there. I think it's beautiful. But do you think they would restore the mansion?
Preservation has been a part of the presentation here. I have been to both. Bart Klein has said that the GC who gets the project will also get the preservation. As to its future use, it's my recollection that the architect said this project gives the hope, perhaps the most hope for the future. I'm having a hard time answering your question because I don't know what type of funding sources would be out there to support a museum. If the funding sources are there, I don't know of any reason why it wouldn't be. Personally, as much as I've looked at this thing and walked up around it, not around it per se, but up and down the street, I might even be interested in living in it at some point. Who knows?
Well, I think that would be a good place for those, if we voted to make that apartments, that would be a good place for them to shop. It could be a shopping center, it could be a little bit anything. Event center,
It has a picture frame around it and a staircase leading up to it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McMillan? Seeing none, we will now close the public hearing on DDR-1-2025. Does the board have any questions or anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Motion's been made,
Second.
properly seconded. Is there any discussion? I have some discussion. I would like to bring up the same two amendments that I did previously, that if this is approved, then the Regional Planning Commission keep track on the National Historical Register, and if that falls apart or that stops, then the site planning and construction stops. Obviously, if it doesn't get accepted, that's not of their fault.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can I make a friendly amendment to that?
Yes, sir.
That, as Mr. McMillan said,
I haven't made the amendment yet, but
well, but as Mr. McMillan said, the needle's been moved, preservation is happening. That it, and we're taking them on their word that preservation is happening, that they're committing to preserve it. We're not gonna have a letter from a structural engineer 4
No.
months from now that, oh, well, we tried, we can't be saved. They are committing, the same, it's gonna be preserved or the building permit's not going forward.
if something like that happens, that's out of that realm. I'm just saying, if it doesn't get approved through the National Historic Committee, which could encompass anyone in all of those areas, then it's not their fault. But if the process of filing and all that keeping up, that's what I'm talking
okay.
about. I'm talking about the process.
Mr. Chairman wants to see that this continue with application. The application will actually come back to this board for a public hearing.
So should mine be a separate amendment?
I don't know what yours is yet.
Let's let his amendment get on the floor
Get-
first, and we can discuss any other
Okay.
clarifications.
And also, obviously, if it gets approved by the National Historic Society, they supply the plaque of its tenure of what its historical value is. However, if it doesn't get approved, I would like for the developer or the owner of this to put up a plaque in reference to it, similar to what we did at First Baptist, if it doesn't go National Historic. So that a plaque be done and that the National Historic Register be overviewed to make sure that it was happening. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Doug, did you have something?
Well, I'd just like to make the amendment that this, if it were to be approved, that the preservation is, if the preservation were to stop, the approval stops.
Oh, okay. So,
Preservation of the building.
Yeah, so like, if they get under construction and, 6 months from now, well, we've looked at it, we can't save it, we're gonna have to tear it down,
okay,
you know.
that would have nothing to do with this last amendment.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said it's probably a separate amendment, but, that as per their statement, preservation is going forward.
So what's your motion?
Mr. Jones, you're stating that should 2 years go by and the building's going vertical, but they've not touched the house.
Yeah.
You want to hear from them and
We
say,
don't,
what
we
are
don't
we
want 2 more
doing?
years of neglect.
Yes.
So what would your motion be?
I'm not sure.
How would you favor that, Mr. Tindall? Well, you know what he's trying to say.
You're looking for a pause or a revocation of building permits should the home be determined that it's not being preserved at some point during construction.
Yeah, if that's the legal thing to make. I don't know.
I'm looking at my attorneys. I'd
There you go.
love to get their input.
If you're talking like automatic revocation, I don't know that you can do that. I think there would have to be a hearing.
Well, well, I guess if this would be to be approved, there's no tearing it down without coming back to this board, I guess is a better question.
It can't be tore down, you can't tear it.
I would think that's right. I
Okay.
think they would
And
have
that
to
probably settles.
come back here.
And
Yes.
that
Okay.
probably settles, you know.
You're saying ultimately you're asking if y'all make an approval today, can they just tear it down in 6 months if they want to?
Or
Without coming before the
ignore
board.
preservation.
Yeah, or ignore, I mean, yeah, I don't wanna say, okay, yes, we'll go forward, and then it sit there for 2 or 3 years, and then at that point go, well, it's really deteriorated beyond all preservation.
I would say that they would have to come in front of this board again.
Okay.
I would look at it this way, Mr. Jones. In the RPC side of things, we have planned unit developments. If they do not begin construction within 3 years, we ask them to come back and give us a reason why, and we determine whether or not we should extend that planned unit development's approvals. I would think maybe to put a timeline on this and say if preservation has not begun by X, we would ask you to come back here and answer some questions. I think that would be maybe more appropriate.
Would you say a quarterly report or a 6-month report?
Oh, I would at least give them a year right off the bat, for sure, because, they still have financing to do and plans. These are not construction plans yet, these are
For sure.
renderings,
Yeah,
so.
that's a long process.
Maybe an annual update until the building is completed, it would be just a good rule of thumb to follow with this.
That's what I said.
Okay, so I believe Mr. Jones' motion would be for the applicant to give an annual report in the April timeframe every year of the preservation and construction of this building until it's complete.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Sir?
Who would they give the report to, the annual report to?
Us.
This
To-
board.
To this board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Oh, I have one more.
Sure.
Is this property is it already considered historical? It hasn't been considered,
It
so
is
it's really
not
not a
on the
historical.
National
It's not on the
Registry
national
yet,
register.
Okay. I just
Or
want to
in the
make
H1
sure.
overlay.
or in our local overlay,
Okay,
correct?
so it's not a historic, okay.
Any other questions? Voting on Mr. Jones's amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Now we're voting on the motion as amended twice. Any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
The ayes have it.
Get some hands. Just
Let's raise hands. The ayes, please raise, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed?
Chairman, no
5
voting.
to 2.
Chairman's not voting.
Chairman only votes in case of a tie or
It don't have to, you can vote
You got it.
anytime.
but I would.
It's approved.
You don't have to vote.
So the motion carries. Is there any other business to come before this body?
We don't have any more cases today, Mr. Chairman. We just have the open public comment period.
Yes, sir. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Anybody like to, yes, please come forward.
It's a pretty house. We did it so good.
State your name and
I have some knowledge pertinent to what you were talking about at the end, National Register nomination and work on the property. If the same person is going to be working on the mansion that works on the new construction, then that individual should start work on the mansion as they start work on the new construction. I've gone before the Tennessee Historical Commission maybe 10 times for nominations for National Register. If no work is started on that property, the Tennessee Historical Commission would probably not even consider the nomination. So if part of this hinges on the National Register nomination and they wait a period of time for doing anything, that's not gonna happen. And when it comes to the, actually working on the property, I've walked around it. My house was in worse shape than that when I bought it 36 years ago. The exterior is all doable. The idea that some structural engineer is gonna say that that house is not suitable to renovate, that's not gonna happen, okay? I see, okay. So, with this conversation I've heard at the end here, that could be delayed and delayed and delayed. I know you've already had your vote, but they should not wait to work on the mansion until the new construction starts. And that's my comment I want to make on that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Anybody else like to make a comment? Please come forward.
I'd like to make a comment, I'm sorry I haven't been a part of this, but that's an international farm, all international property, and I had a death in my family of my daughter, and I did take on the Smith Trail Mansion when there was no money. I've helped with mansions everywhere. The Clover Bottom Mansion, there was no money. $250,000 was set aside by the state government. They owned it, but it had asbestos, and it was going to cost. So the Nev Ray McCorder, when I went to see him, says you need to make a friendly lawsuit. And they did, the group I was working with, because it wasn't, they couldn't spend the money, and the asbestos was, and it was leaking. So yeah, it would have been not there. So I was proud to get to do that. This is the International Harvester. And I was at the State Museum, saw a group of young men standing around the old farm hall. Like it was the most exciting thing in the world. Those gardens, I was trained at the International Harvester Institute for Women how to treat people. That garden was what the farmmen, the workers, so they wouldn't have to let them go. They worked on those gardens so the men wouldn't fight when the tractors weren't there. So that garden itself is so important. That was trained. Largest business, so supportive of young people. So the history for me, y'all just might need to be glad I wasn't here, because I adore that building. No, it's not owners, and our home was not that nice in Dover, Tennessee. But I just want to share with you that history that might be important to the rural people of this community if they could remember and know. I had the tractor club. I'm thinking, they did my farm hall. We bought it at an auction to help the arena. Those people, do they realize that that is the home of International Harvester and Farm Hall? And just, I would love to see that kept in mind as it proceeds in getting the historical documentation. It might help. It might help. Thank you. And I'm looking to see if there's any home in the United States that's still there from this. I don't know. I'm going to go see it if it is. Thank you.
And you were Miss Pyle,
Martha
right?
Martin Powell.
Pyle, that's what I thought. That's meant. I was just making sure.
Implement company in Dover, Tennessee. We didn't sell as many tractors, I'm sure.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Powell. Anyone else like to make any public comments? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name's Dave Hartnett. I live at 3512 Springhouse Trail, Clarksville, Tennessee. Thank you all for doing what I call the greatest show, democracy at its finest. We have great debate. I just want to make a side note of professionalism and conduct. In the audience, your mics are live. Well, you can hear things, paper shuffling, fanning, drinking, side conversations. Please, when somebody comes up here and says something, please have their full attention and listen to what they're saying, not being distracted by what you're trying to do. Be prepared for the meeting and do all as I said. It takes a lot of courage to come up here. I think it will allow all the people who presented are both sides. Again, I see sides, three sides, their side, and there's the middle. Where's the truth? Where's the compromise? So as an observation, as an observer, not any political agenda or anything like that, but please, when somebody comes up to this podium, please be respectful of their time, their patience, and their effort. They have some passionate words and some critical thinking behind their words. Please be respectful and give them their full attention and not be distracted by paper, because we can hear it on the mics, and it's very distracting out here. You can hear me, and you guys can all hear me. But again, that's about my 2 cents. It's not the first time I've heard these things. I know there's system working on it, but please be respectful for the people presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
Can I make a comment? Sir, we are professional people here. Some of us
Really?
been doing, let me finish.
Just
Sir,
go ahead.
please, see you being disrespectful.
Okay,
So wait till I get through.
on your head.
Thank you. We are very respectful people here. We do have to write. We do use our ink pen to jot down things that are being said. We do get thirsty up here so we can drink. There's no law against that.
Yes, there
So
is.
we are very professional here. We do our job, and that's why we're on this board. If we didn't, we wouldn't be on this board. So,
Well, some of
remember
you are
that.
paid,
So-
some are volunteers.
it doesn't matter. You get paid to work too. We do too. There's nothing wrong with getting paid to work. We're not slaves. We work.
That's,
Oh, I wouldn't even imagine that.
Well,
We-
slaves didn't work, so.
Wait,
it's-
wait,
Well,
call back
excuse me,
up.
this
We
is
don't need to
getting
go
out of
there.
control. Like I
We
said,
don't need
there's
to
a
go
lot
to
of passion.
It
And I
does make
appreciate
sense.
your passion.
Yep.
People came here to do the service. There's a great sign upstairs. Every day you have a chance to make this city great. If you haven't seen it, it's upstairs. That's what everybody should be doing.
All citizens do. We all
Thank you,
have a
sir.
job.
Everybody.
We all
This
have
is
a
a
job.
community. It's common unity.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't know we were discussing, the meeting's over?
The meeting's not over, no, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're on. Anyone else like to make any public comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.